Welcome to the Early Morning Light Podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Early, and on this podcast, I share life-changing tips, tools, information, motivation, and inspiration to bring light to your life as you tune in week after week to the Early Morning Light Podcast. And on this week's episode, I'm going to talk about something that's going to challenge us all to change how we view things, to change how we approach the things that we are doing in our lives on a day-to-day basis. You see, I was doing something recently or getting prepared to do something that was a project that I was working on. And I just, in that particular moment, I didn't feel like doing it, even though it was important to me. It was something that I needed to do. That I wanted to do. It just didn't, I wasn't motivated to do it at the time. And I know everyone's listening right now has had moments where you weren't motivated to do something that was important to you. But I was in that state. My attitude wasn't the greatest. And I was thinking to myself, man, I have to do this thing. I can't believe, man, I have to do this right now. I have to do this thing. And I know many of you can relate to that, to situations like that. And I just remembered, as I was in that situation recently, someone told me, they said, years ago, they said, you really, in most cases, you don't have to do most things. They said, you actually get to do whatever that thing is that you're doing. And they said, imagine if you approach each important thing or in your life that you're involved in with that mentality, that attitude that I get to do this thing. I mean, think about that. The difference between I get to do it and I have to do it. Which one feels more positive? Which one is more motivating? And the reality is that we can change in an instant how we're viewing the things that we're doing. And yes, we're not going to be motivated all the time or excited about everything that we're doing. But I'm just saying, for those things that are important to you in your life, that if you really were to do an assessment of your life and what's important to you, they would be important. Imagine if you approached everything, if not most things, from that mentality. I get to do this thing. I get to go to work. How many of us have said that? I have to go to work today. I have to go to work this week. When the reality is that you don't have to go to work. Like, you could choose not to go. So that's not really true. The problem with that is that there's some repercussions. There's some things that could happen if you didn't go, right? But imagine if you could approach most, if not every day, with the mentality that I get to go to work. I get to go in to this place where I get to have an impact in the way that I've chosen to have an impact in terms of the job or the career or the business that I have. Imagine if you approached it from that attitude or with that mentality that I get to do this. For those who are in school, who are pursuing education, imagine, how many of you have at times said, I have to do this paper. I have to do this project. I have to do this assignment. Imagine if you could start looking at your education and your assignments, your projects, with the mentality that I get to do this thing. I mean, just like work, there are people who don't have an opportunity to go. And I don't say that to go to school. And I'm not saying that to make you feel guilty or anything. But that's the reality, is that it's something that you actually get to do. And just making that simple switch in how you're talking about it in your own head or even out loud can change the way you feel about doing it. And I'm only saying this because it has happened for me as recent as this week, where I was dreading, I would say, a project that I was working on that I had to do. And I was saying to myself, man, I have to do this thing. I got to get up and I got to do this thing. I have to do this. And for some reason, it just hit me in one of those moments where I said, okay, that's not really true, Tracy. And it doesn't really feel good to keep saying to yourself that you have to do this thing. What if you just said to yourself, I get to do this thing? And so I started doing that. And immediately my physiology changed, my attitude changed, my energy changed, my motivation changed. And it wasn't like it was this miraculous thing where everything just, became easy and there's no challenge. But just changing the words that I was saying to myself from I have to do this to I get to do it just changed everything for me in that moment, and was able to get through that part of the thing that I was working on. And for some of us, this may be on a daily thing where you are saying to yourself, I have to do this thing. I have to do this yard work. When the reality is that you don't have to do it. But if you don't do it, you don't get the opportunity, and there's a key word, the opportunity to do something that's going to change a situation positively, to make if it's yard work, make your yard more pleasant to the eye, to make it, to achieve the results of the work that you put in to that yard work, whatever it is that you're doing. Many of us have said things like, man, I have to make dinner tonight. Man, I wish someone else would do that. Or, why do I have to, I worked all day. Why do I have to? When the reality is that you get to make dinner. And because you get to make dinner, you get to, let's think about that. You get to enjoy probably a more nutritious meal than you probably would have enjoyed if you bought from a restaurant or went out to eat or something like that. What's another opportunity there? You get to create something, make a meal that maybe you have a family that gets to enjoy that meal because you got the opportunity to serve them in that way, to make that meal and serve them in that way. And again, I'm not saying that it's easy, that in every moment that you have a thought that you have to do something, it's going to be easy to make that change. But just want you to consider the benefits of changing your mindset from I have to I get to do this thing that I've chosen to do, or that is in front of me, that I have an opportunity to do. And I think one of the ways to change that mentality and to change the way we approach things and to get rid of those situations where we are in the have to state is to think of the opportunity that you have. Like, look at every situation as an opportunity. And what is the opportunity? Is there an opportunity to serve someone? Is it an opportunity to make something better for your family? Is it an opportunity to move ahead or closer to a goal that you have? Is it an opportunity to just do something that's going to impact the world or impact your environment wherever you are? What is the opportunity? So one of the ways I think to catch yourself, if this is something that you do often, is to start asking yourself, okay, I know I'm saying that to myself that I have to do this thing. I know I feel like I have to do this thing, but what is the opportunity that I get to be involved in this situation? And I'm telling you, man, I have worked with this shift, over the years in situations. And I'll be honest, there are times when I still catch myself saying I get to, or being in that mentality of like, I have to, or being in that state where I'm thinking of it that way. And every time when I'm able to catch it and to make the shift to I get to, things change. Things change. I mean, it happened to me as recent as this week. a couple of days ago where I was in that state, and I made the shift. I found a way to make the shift from I have to I get to. And not only was that situation or that experience more enjoyable, but my energy went up. My motivation, as I said earlier, was up, and I felt better about the situation. And I was able to get through it, get the thing that I get to do done, and I felt better. I felt more accomplished. I felt like I took control of a situation that I was letting control me by the negative thought process that I was engaging in, and it just felt better. So just want to encourage you to think about those areas of your life that you have been saying to yourself, I have to do this. I have to go to work. I have to go and coach this team. Or I mean, think of those situations where you have been doing that. And I'm just going to encourage and challenge each of us, me included, to begin to change the way we approach things from I have to I get to, and watch how it will impact and change your life in a positive way. This is Tracy Early. Thanks for listening to the Early Morning Light podcast. Continue to tune in week after week as I continue to bring light to your life through the Early Morning Light podcast. Talk to you soon.